I want them to have this happy place to escape to that have, a fun pet and kooky best friends and, the cutest little town in America that has this dark, seedy underbelly. Um, but it's also clever and funny, and there's a little romance and all kinds of, danger and trouble, but it always works out in the end. It has that happily ever after. I think that's really important for people.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for another edition of the Cozy Pet Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Abernathy. Very excited today to have USA Today bestselling artist Patti Larsen joining us. Hey, Patti, how are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. You've been around this for a little while. You've got a nice list there of cozies and some other books that are not necessarily cozy as well. But you've got your Persephone Pringle cozy series with Belladonna, your therapy cat there. You've got Masquerade Inc. cozy mysteries, the Fleming investigations, and Fiona Fleming cozy mysteries with Petunia the pug, and we got Canary Key cozy mysteries, your paranormal cozies with White Witch Island, where you got a pair of ravens and a mastiff named Benjamin.
Yeah.
We got the Daisy Bruce cozy mysteries, your Delane Baker cozy mysteries, and your new Bard at Large. Is that cozy fantasy?
It is cozy fantasy, yes.
Okay. Cool. How are you liking that?
I'm loving it. I've been rapid writing those, so yeah, it's been very fun so far.
I've been working on a cozy fantasy myself, so I'm not rapid writing. I'll have to say I've been distracted and letting it take its time a little bit. I wrote while we were on a cruise. I got a big chunk of it written then, and now I'm getting ready to head off. I'm leaving in less than a week to go back to Scotland, and I'll be doing some writing on the scene. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So looking forward to doing that. But so let's meet some of your cozy pets. I know we've got Benjamin and you've got the ravens in the White Witch Island, and they're able to communicate.
They are. So Concio and Caprice. Concio is a traditional black raven, and his mate Caprice is a white raven. They were actually created by an evil sorcerer. There is a novella that was written to explain how the lead character, Georgia Drake, came into contact with them. And Benjamin is a Hades hound. He's a big black mastiff who was failed out of the Hades hound program because he was too sweet. And so she's had him since he was a puppy. And Benny is the favorite of the series. Everybody who talks to me about White Witch Island is always asking me more from Benny, please, because he's pretty amazing.
So has he gotten over his failure?
It never bothered him, and actually, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it turns out that he may or may not have lost all of his Hades hound powers, as things turned out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he's very protective of Georgia. He calls her mother, and he's little over 2 years old, but he's still very naive and innocent, but also incredibly powerful. So he's just really a lovable and lovely boy.
Yeah. So we've got a pit bull, and I can relate to that. And I think a lot of pitty owners can relate to that. You got the dog that is supposed to be, this vicious dog. I can't take it with me to Scotland because it's considered a dangerous dog. But Gracie's just the sweetest thing. And yes, she's powerful. I can't just let anybody take her for a walk because she'll pull them over and injure somebody. and yeah, if there's a kid out there, if she were loose and there's a kid playing with a ball, she might hurt the kid because she's trying to play with the ball. But she's just the sweetest thing. So Benny's like that, I guess, to some degree.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the way, though? I mean, so often the big dogs are the teddy bears, and the little dogs, like my sister-in-law's got a little Chihuahua mix, and that thing, if you're not Judy, you're not welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same with horses, I find, actually. The big draft horses, even though they're really large and kind of scary looking, are much sweeter and kinder natured than, say, ponies, who can be very temperamental and harder to deal with.
So,
Absolutely.
so outside of that one series, which is
Mhm.
paranormal cozy, are your other pets that you have? Do you have other pets that are communicators, or are they normal pets?
They're pretty normal. Yeah. So in the Fiona Fleming Cozy Mysteries and the Fleming Investigations, those are tied together. They're two separate series, but it's the same character. She has a pug named Petunia, who's named for the bed and breakfast that she inherits from her grandmother. And this is actually Petunia the fourth. And so when she adopts her, this particular Petunia is already grown up and has her own mannerisms, and she's very fragrant and set in her ways and quite hilarious. Uh, um, but she's a lovable, sweet dog who tends to go everywhere with me as much as possible. And I actually have two pugs, and so
Mhm.
Petunia is based on those lovable little clown-like scoundrels that rule my life.
Out of all the pets that you've got, which ones get most involved in actually helping solve the mysteries?
That would be Benny and the Ravens, absolutely. So with Georgia Drake, because they're able to communicate with her, right? They become a part of her kind of investigation team. So, and because in her particular world, she's not allowed to use magic around mortals or normals because it's against the rules of who she is and what she does. But her animals don't have the same rules, and so
Huh.
they're able to assist her in her investigations using their powers without getting her into trouble, which is, very helpful for her when it comes to solving murders.
Yeah, I can see where that would be. And
Yeah.
animals, not only can animals in the real world can they help you, can they break some rules themselves, but I find that they can help you break some rules. I mean, it's so much easier to approach somebody else when
Yes.
you've got a
Yeah,
dog.
for sure.
And not in every case. It does depend
Not
on
in
the
every
dog
case.
and it depends on the person that you're approaching. But in most cases, at least the people that I want to talk to, if I've got a dog
Yeah.
with me, if I've got Gracie with me, they might not give me the time of day otherwise. But with Gracie there, I'm in.
Yeah, they're much more likely to approach you if they're a pet person and you're a pet person. Now, in one of my contemporary series, the Persephone Pringle Cozy Mysteries, sorry, it's a bit of a tongue
Yeah.
twister. She has a therapy cat named Belladonna,
Mhm.
who has, I don't know if Bella so much assists Seth in her solving of crimes or if she interferes, but she's been known to participate. For example, in one of the books, she stumbles or leads Seth to a very particular kind of garden that's growing certain plants that aren't necessarily healthy for the human body or for cat bodies either.
Yeah.
And so she does that by escaping and running away, and Seth has to go find her. So in that way, she sort of helped Seth solve the mystery. But I don't think Bella actually does it to be helpful. I think she does it because she's a bratty kitty.
Mhm.
But it all works out in the end, right?
Yeah. So you have released quite a few books. Have you got a count now?
Yeah.
Where do you stand?
I just released my 229th title not
Wow.
too long ago, about a week ago.
Are they all
And
under your name, or do you release some
they
under?
are,
Mhm.
they are. I
A lot of
write,
people get surprised when they find out that their favorite author actually has written more books under other names.
yes.
But yours are all, they can find all of yours with your Patti Larsen. Okay.
I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to use pen names.
Hmm.
And I've been doing this full time for 15 years. I can barely manage my own identity. I
Yeah.
don't know how people manage multiple identities. I have enough voices in my head that I try to wrangle, let alone trying to be multiple people. So,
I was on radio and TV for about 35 years. And
okay.
I started when I was still in high school, and I used a pseudonym there,
Mm.
and I stayed in my hometown. And at first I'm on the college radio station, nobody's listening, doesn't matter. But then all of a sudden, okay, here's this guy. I stayed with that name, and it's the worst kept secret in the world what my real name really was. But you go with that, and finally, after 35 years of not using my real name, and my parents wondering why I won't use the name that I was born with, I said, you know what? I'm writing, and I'm going to be me. I'm going to be me. And I thought, well, I was thinking, with all this AI and everything else going around, I think authenticity is important. People want to know that they're actually dealing with the person that they think they're dealing with. They're spending their money to read the words and thoughts and imagination of this person. And so I didn't want to bring my old radio name or any other name to it. I wanted to be who I am.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I'm proud of everything that I've created, right? I'm sure you are too. And so I
almost everything.
I want to make sure that people know that it's me, because, the whole point behind creating is being able to share, being able to share what it is I've made.
So we actually visited your neck of the woods last year for the first time, Prince Edward Island.
Yes. Yeah. Home of Anna
Loved
Green
it.
Gable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came. Yes, it's beautiful here. I do tend to leave in the winter. In fact, I was in Mexico for 3 months. Part of the reason I was able to write so many projects this winter, just like you, when you travel and you create a lot, I do the same thing. But I wouldn't be anywhere but here in the summertime. The island is magical and beautiful, and the whole region actually is quite lovely.
Yeah, we really want to get back there. As a matter of fact, my wife has been looking at job openings. But
Oh, fantastic.
She just retired a week ago.
Oh, congratulations to her. Fantastic. That's lovely.
Not retired, but she's going to have her pension, and we can now move out of the state and go wherever we want to. So, so we're looking at different options, and that's one of them. We loved it, but we did the cruise, which, you kind of love and hate. They bring money to the island, but a lot of other things as well.
We don't complain.
But we only got to see one day in the autumn, right as the leaves were starting to change. We weren't quite there for the peak, but God, it was so beautiful. Everybody was so friendly, and we've got to get back. So you've got some unique wildlife there. Does any of the wildlife in Prince Edward Island influence your writing? Because your characters aren't. Do you have any series that are actually set there, or?
I don't. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have one children's book that is, but I do have a cozy series planned for PEI. I just haven't started it yet. I have so many projects on the go and so many voices that demand attention that it always seems like it kind of gets pushed to the side. And I think you always sort of feel like the place that you're from isn't as exciting as other places that you could write about. And so every time I think about writing about PEI, it's not a bad thing, but it's like, oh, well, who would read about PEI? But I know Prince Edward Island, people who, when I travel, when I tell them about PEI, they know where it is, they get very excited. And so it's certainly something it's on the list.
Yeah. We've got, I used to live in a little village in the Scottish Highlands right beside Loch Ness.
Ah.
So the new project that I'm working on now is set in a little village inspired by that village, because I'm looking at it's like it really is the perfect setting. It's just a tiny little village beside Loch Ness in the Highlands. You got the Caledonian Canal coming through, and you get just so much. It's just so. Yeah, I'm trying that. I'm going to see how that goes.
Amazing.
But I'd be interested to see what you write there for PEI. I'd absolutely believe that people want to see that. And a friend of mine was actually telling me, I wish I'd known this beforehand. I don't know if we would have had time to check it out while we were there, but my friend Jason was saying that there's a beach on Prince Edward Island where the water is really warm. It's like you're going to the beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Is that true?
Well, they say our waters are the warmest north of the Carolinas, but you have to be on the south shore. So the North Shore is the North Atlantic. It's where you would come in, on your cruise ship. But as soon as you come in, because the island is kind of in this little divot between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, the shore that's between us and the mainland, the water gets quite warm. Is it really, really warm? In the middle of summer, it's swimmable for sure, especially at the mouths of the rivers. I don't know. It's certainly not Mexico warm.
Yeah.
But I grew up here and I'm used to it. So It's the ocean.
We certainly don't have anything like that in Loch Ness.
Loch Ness is quite cold.
Yeah, I've got a friend actually there that does swim in the loch and the other smaller lochs as well. She goes out and that's her morning routine is to go swim a few miles. It's like, I don't know how she does it. Do not know, but whatever.
She's never encountered Nessie, but has she? Nessie's never interrupted her swims.
No. You're not going to see Nessie. The key, people ask me, how can you spot Nessie? And I tell them that the key is in the whiskey.
Oh.
You have to consume a significant amount of whiskey before you're going to see Nessie.
Clever. Okay, that's good to know. Scotland's on my list, so when I go, I'll make sure I have lots of whiskey before I go sit and look at the loch.
There you go. Not too much, though, or you might fall in. That happens. We've got, in our village, we've got the Caledonian Canal, and you've got a series of lochs. You've got your loch, L-O-C-H, Loch Ness, but then you've got the lochs that, help the water level step down from the canal into the Loch Ness. And it's not uncommon for somebody to be walking across those lochs and they had the whiskey and they go in and that's it. Okay, that's not very cozy. Let's move on.
No, it's not good.
All right, so
great fodder for a cozy murder mystery.
Could be. So what are you working on right now?
I'm working on book 4 of the Elora Toon Bard at Large fantasy cozies called The Necromancer Nocturne. All of her books are based on song titles or song types, obviously. And then I'm going back to White Witch Island and Georgia Drake number 10. I can't remember. I lose track of the numbers.
How are you approaching the cozy fantasy? Because it's so wide open. When you talk about a contemporary cozy or a paranormal cozy and such, people know exactly what to expect most of the time. Obviously you're going to have some different characters and the stories are going to each be unique, but there's a very set expectation for each of those. When somebody says cozy fantasy, that doesn't really exist yet. The all the tropes and stuff. There's some starting to form, but it's not really known. Are you enjoying that freedom?
I am very much. So I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing since I was 9. My dad brought it home for Christmas because he wanted to play. And so the fantasy genre was actually one of the big triggers for me to wanting to be a writer in the first place. So combining the way I tell or the way I outline or structure my cozies, combining that with orcs and elves and fantasy magic and has been very fun and very interesting. I'm keeping it a little bit more lighthearted, so less on the epic fantasy side and more on the kind of the clever, funny side of cozy mysteries, to make sure that my regular cozy readers are going to enjoy the stories hopefully as much as they do my contemporary and my paranormal, while also satisfying fantasy readers who are starting to fall in love with that brand new kind of niche of the fantasy cozy. So it has been very liberating. It's been very fun, but I'm finding I'm still kind of following the rules and the tropes of cozy while being able to have so much fun with the world building and all that
Right.
great stuff that you get to do with fantasy writing, right? I'm
Yeah.
actually looking at doing science fiction as well. I have a first
Oh,
chapter that I wrote as a sample um, of a detective who has to go to the moon, to a moon base, and she hates space. So I'm going to explore that as well, probably not until the fall, but those two particular genres I love so much. And to be able to bring cozies into that, so
yeah.
exciting. So
The world's
exciting.
just waking up to cozy. I mean, the cozy mystery thing has been kicking along for a while, and a lot of people
Yeah.
love it. But it's been just cozy mystery, and now all of a sudden it's
Mhm.
cozy everything. And I think
Everything.
fantasy is
I know.
the probably the hottest. But um,
Yeah.
there's so
I
many.
know all of the genres are kind of claiming cozy now,
Right.
which I find very interesting. I don't think they're specifically following those those kind of rigid rules that we've been looking or that we've been not really boxed into, but that readers have been expecting from a traditional cozy mystery,
Right.
right? But that feeling, that cozy feeling, I think they're carrying that into different genres, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I guess people have been saying this forever, but it certainly seems true right now that we've got so much to worry about in the world.
Mm,
So many things, and it's coming at us from so many different directions,
yeah.
and to be able to pick up a story and know that that part of the world is not going to be there. It's just going to be something that you can relax and feel good with. I mean, yeah, somebody's going to die, but it's probably not somebody that.
Nobody likes the person,
Yeah.
and all of the suspects are terrible people, and the lead character is funny and usually has a pet sidekick, and it's a clever little town. And I know it's wonderful, right? I remember back during COVID, I made the choice not to write about the pandemic in any of my books and to keep everything lighthearted. And I made that promise to my readers. And the same when it comes to politics. And, there's a time and a place for all of those things. But for my readers and for the people who choose to honor me by, oh, sorry, my microphone, who choose to honor me by buying my books, I want them to have this happy place to escape to that have, a fun pet and kooky best friends and, the cutest little town in America that has this dark, seedy underbelly. But it's also clever and funny, and there's a little romance and all kinds of, danger and trouble, but it always works out in the end. It has that happily ever after. I think that's really important for people.
Yeah. And getting back to the theme of our podcast with the cozy
Mm,
pets, the pets are a huge part of that
yeah.
because we may argue with all the people around us, but none of that enters into our relationship with our pets. That's somebody that we can have a true "I love you unconditionally,"
Mm.
and none of that doesn't matter. It's just you and me. With your pets in your books, how much are they influenced by your actual pets that you have now or that you've had in the past?
So I'm one of those weird writers that hears voices. I don't really get a whole lot of say. When Fiona Fleming first came to me, I knew she had a pug. And a lot of the mannerisms, Petunia's mannerisms, do come from my pug. She could probably hear them snoring in the background. But Petunia herself is her own personality. Just like I love horses and I've grown up with horses, but Elora Toon's horse, Chestnut Gelding, Penny Whistle, has his own personality. So I there's an influence, I think, because I love animals, but on the other hand, it's also every animal has its own heart and soul, just like we do, right?
Yeah. Do you take, obviously, you've got a lot of series.
Mm.
Your main characters are going from point A to point KLMN down
Yeah.
to Z. There's a long journey for these characters. They're evolving. They're changing as they go. Sometimes people like the pets to just kind of be who they are, and sometimes the pets, their personalities change, and they show a lot of growth throughout a series as well. Do you maybe do more of that with the paranormal than you do with the contemporary cozy pets, or how does that work with yours?
Yes, definitely. And in my books, time passes. So, a puppy eventually turns into an adult dog and could turn into a senior dog. And, so there's those issues that the lead character has to deal with. Um, but definitely in the paranormal realm. So Benjamin, for example, the more books we get into with Georgia Drake and her big Cane Corso, the more he grows and his personality changes. He's still sweet and lovely, but maybe not quite as innocent as he used to be. As he learns lessons and solves his own mysteries and figures out his own things about himself, for sure.
Mhm. And how do you like to deal with the emotional side of things? We've talked about how people want to come to the cozies because they want to feel good, and obviously we want to deliver that. But to truly, really connect with that reader and have them really connect with an evolving character, sometimes you got to have a few downs to go with the ups. Do you try to work in some of that to really show the depth of the characters, or do you like to stay
Yeah.
mostly above that?
No, well, I do my best to honor the characters and their evolution. So whether that's through, heartbreak in relationships, fights with their best friends or their parents. But my characters do tend to end up with HEAs, with happily ever afters. They might have to come through some hard stuff in order for that to happen for them. For the most part, especially when it comes to the murders and solving the murders, there's a lot of comedy. I get a lot of comments about, laugh out loud. I laughed out loud. There's a lot of internal dialogue and whatnot that goes on with my characters. But I don't, I've never been accused of holding back when it comes to sharing the emotional side, because if you're going to connect with what you're reading, the more authentic it is to your own experience or to the experience of people around you, the deeper the connection to the character and the more real it feels. And then it's like you're sitting in somebody's kitchen having a cup of coffee and they're telling you their story rather than just reading it in a book or on a reader.
Yeah. I think business-wise, I may have made a little bit of a mistake with how I started my series. This is my first cozy series, the Detective Whiskers series. I've got that wrapped up at Christmas time. But I started out with a widow who had just recently lost her husband. And that may have been, just starting out that way. Some cozy readers come into it and, okay, that's not what I'm looking for right now. So business-wise, that may not have been the best. But, you're writing true to yourself.
On
But
the other hand,
there's other ways you can have
Stephanie Pringle starts with the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And that does really well. And Fee's series started with her boyfriend cheats on her in New York, and she ends up back in reading. So I think there's an audience for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you made a mistake at all. I don't think so. That's life. That's real life.
And part of what I wanted to get through in the series, and I hope it comes through this way, is that it doesn't matter where you are in your life. Until that very last breath, you've got another chapter to write.
Yes.
And don't ever just say, okay, my character, she's retired to the beach that she thought she was going to be at with her husband, but he's not there. And she thinks she's just going to sit there, watch the waves roll in until she dies. And of course, that's not what happens at all.
Mm-hmm.
She comes alive in this town and through friendships and all of that by the end of the series. she's living life as much as she ever has.
That sounds like a fantastic series. That doesn't sound like a mistake.
Yeah, I just need to do a better job of making sure that people can see where it's headed a little bit at the beginning. That it's didn't necessarily start in the wrong place. I just need to grow as a writer and do a better job of making sure the reader knows where we're going to go, so they can be more comfortable and cozy with it. Anyway, I have had a wonderful time talking to you.
Me too, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, where can everybody find you online?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. I'm on Facebook. I just started a new Petunia-based TikTok story series, all from Petunia's point of view. So the Fiona Fleming's pug is telling the story. I'm also on Blue Sky. I have a website, Instagram. I'm everywhere.
Is it PattiLarsen.com?
PattiLarsen.com. And of course, I'm at all retailers. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo. Yeah, I'm at all of them. All of my books are at all of them, except one romance series that I wrote with another couple of really incredible ladies. In fact, one of them was on here, Carolyn Dean.
Yeah.
That's on Kindle Unlimited, but all of my cozies are available everywhere.
And over 200. So unless you're reading a book a day, you've got probably a book or more, or a year or more. I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Probably half of my list are cozy mysteries, and the rest are a variety from dystopian to young adult paranormal, science fiction, fantasy. I'm all over the place.
Definitely somebody can find something. If they're a cozy reader, they can fill their summer with Patti Larsen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Patti, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Tell the pugs I said hi.
I absolutely will.